Hello there, it's Carrie Rhodes here. Welcome back to another card making video with Time for Tea products, sharing some of my favorites with you. I have these mini scene cards with rainbow backgrounds for you today. The first stamp set I will be using is the Grateful for You landscape. I'm also using the All Occasions Critters. There is a die set that goes with this as well. And then I have this fun slimline die set, lots of love slimline, so cute. And then a A5 wood grain background stamp. And then last I have the plaid background stamp. So I'm going to do some ink blending to start off and create a rainbow background using these wonderfully soft ink blending brushes from Time for Tea. I'm going to start with Coral Berry ink from Altenew, and I'm going to ink blend that on from the top of the card. And I want a section that's going to remain pink and then a section that will blend with my yellow to create an orange section. So I'm really only using these three colors of ink to get all of the colors of the rainbow. I love doing this and I love rainbows. So when I ink blend, I often make rainbows like this. I put a little pink at the bottom too to hopefully get some purple. You'll see what happens though. And then I'm going to ink blend on the yellow here in the middle, and I want the yellow to not only stand on its own, but overlap the pink to create orange, and then I'll have it come down a little bit so it can blend with that blue color, in this case Aqualicious, to create green. So this yellow was Fresh Lemon by Altenew, and then I have the Aqualicious there that I'm ink blending over the yellow to create green, and then over the pink to create purple. It really was more like a dark blue, but it was fine. I love how it turned out. So yummy. And then I'm going to splatter on some sparkle silk on this to give it a little bit of interest and shimmer. I love having shimmer with my rainbows. So once I have that done, I need to just set it aside to dry before I can die cut it. So there you can see the shimmer. It's more shimmery once it dries. All right, so let's bring out that Lots of Love die set and die cut that from my rainbow background. So cool. And look at all those hearts. I really am going to use these to do an inlay technique, but today I want the die cut portion. So I'm going to use that for my card. Isn't it gorgeous? I love it. So we'll save those and glue this one on to my slimline card panel, which is 8.5 by 3.5. And you can see when I glue this down, this die is just a hair smaller than that. So I do get a white border around it, which I love. I have a circle here that I am going to stamp my mini scene on. So now I'm using this large stamp from the Grateful for You landscape set and just getting a portion of that mountain image. I'm going to make two of those where I'm getting different portions of that mountain scene, and it looks so cute on there. By the way, these circles are about 2 1/4 of an inch for this card. Next, I'm going to stamp out my little critters and my sentiments from that All Occasions Critters stamp set. I have a pig who's having coffee and a dog who's having a donut. I have the word hello and yum and let's get coffee. So now I am coloring out my dog. You can see there my pig. It didn't go well. My marker was bleeding out. I'm going to show you the nicer colored version here in a minute and you'll see the difference. But for the dog, I'm using E34, and then I'm just bringing that same marker back in and going over the areas where I want there to be a shadow. Some very, very simple Copic coloring. And then for the donut, I'm going to color it so that it's more like a cake donut with pink frosting after I colored his nose. So E53 will be the color for my cake donut, and then I'll bring in R20 for the frosting on that. And then I'm also going to use the R20 for some rosy little cheeks on this puppy because he just needed them because he's so cute. All right, so on to the pig. I'm using E02. This marker is super duper juicy, and you can see how much lighter this one is than the first one where my marker was just like flowing with ink. I call it bleeding out. I don't know why. It's just, the ink bled outside the lines when I didn't color outside the lines, and it's going to happen again right there. So instead of coloring a new one, I thought, I'm going to go with this. It looks like the pig has a little spot right there, and it's supposed to be there, right? I liked how it looked, so I'm keeping it. So then I'll just color out the little coffee cup that he's holding, and he will be ready to go. But you can see how much lighter this one looks than the first one. So I like it. I'm keeping it. Next, I'm going to color out my little mini scenes on these 2-inch circles, 2 1/4 inch circles. And I'm using G14 for the greenery on the trees. I'll also use this for one of the hills of grass. My darker color on those trees, well, I'll do that in a minute, but it's, I believe, G05. I just added a little outlining to my mountains on the snow and the mountain itself. I didn't want to color them all the way in. I don't know, I kind of like this look sometimes, a softer look. So here's that darker green coloring in one of the hills of grass, the farther one in the darker color, and then I also used it to shadow out the trees. And then I'll color in one of my hills in that lighter green for a little contrast. And then I have some blue markers here, and I'm using that to color out the sky. That was, I believe, BG49. And then I have my B000 marker to soften out those edges. And I colored the second one the same exact way. And then I gave everything a little highlight with my white Jelly Roll pen to finish them off. Now for the center circle, I'm going to do a sky scene only. I'm not doing any mountains. So I just did a little shadowing on those clouds with my T1 marker. And then I'm using Y04 and Y06. My Y08 was dry, so I brought in my Y06. I'm adding some rays, just flicking them on so the light is radiating out from the sun. And I liked how this ended up. In the beginning, I was like, oh, I just messed this up. Some of them were kind of not going the way I wanted them to go directionally, but I feel like it worked out in the end. Phew. And then the same colors around the edge of that for the sky, just a little hint of color. There you can see all the markers I used. It was BG53 for my sky. And all the markers I use so you can replicate those colors if that interests you. So I'm adding a little shadow die cut circle to the side of each of these circles in a very light gray cardstock. I thought it was fun just to have that little shadow there. And then I'm popping them up onto my heart background. I like to glue my top and my bottom and then my middle for more even spacing. I'm also going to pop up these critters on their little miniature scenes, and I think they look so much fun. I thought if you're going to go for coffee nowadays, you're more likely to enjoy your coffee and your donut outside with your friend than you are inside nowadays, especially now that it's spring, at least here in the States. And I thought it was such a fun scene. Maybe they're meeting up at a park, and I just love the mini scenes and how the look of the rainbow behind them just makes it so fun. And I don't know, it's just a festive look. So now I am trimming off this edge piece from when I die cut out my hearts, and I'm going to save one of those strips to put on the inside of the card just because I like the inside to have a little something. And here's why. My family always opens my cards and looks in there. So I decided I got to step up the game on the inside because the fun should not end on the outside of the card. They're right. They've challenged me. And so some days I'm really good at adding stuff to the inside and other days not so much. How about you? Are you good at putting stuff on the inside of your cards? I would love to know. Next, I had one more piece and I thought, well, why not just add that right to the envelope? So here's my slimline envelope, which happens to be a business size envelope that I got in a pack of 40 from the Dollar Tree. All right, let's move on to card number 2. You can see I've already ink blended this panel. It measures, let's see, 5 3/4 by 2 3/4. It's a mini slimline card front. I'm going to stamp out this A5 wood grain background stamp onto this using black ink, and I'm going to have the lines go horizontally on here, and I think it looks really cool. I'm just using the scratch paper over the top so I don't get any excess ink on my hands, and I can really press down on all the edges and the corners so it gets a really good ink coverage like that. And of course I'm adding the splatter of some shimmer because I love it. I told you I love it. I'm going to use it on all 3 cards. Next, I'm going to stamp out the critter for this card, which is this little cat holding an umbrella. And then I'll also have a sentiment that says, "Sorry you're feeling under the weather," which is a good one for now. My family members have had some illness here and there, so it's a good one to send out. And now I have a YR15 marker that I'm using to color in this cat. So I'm going to just completely cover it with this YR15 and then bringing in YR16 a little bit darker to add some shadowing for this cat. And then I'm going to add some stripes in here so it can be an orange tabby cat. I used to have an orange tabby cat named Simba, so I tend to color a lot of orange tabby cats. I don't know if they're my favorite or not, but I really loved Simba. He was precious to me. It was a really long time ago, but he was a big cat too, and he liked to sleep on my head. Whenever I laid down, he would come find me and lay on my head, and he would touch me with this pink nose, like he was giving me little kisses on my face. It was very sweet. So there is my little Simba cat, I guess. And then I'm coloring the umbrella with 2 different shades of pink. I thought that would be a fun color for the umbrella. And the handle will be the black with my T8 marker. And there you have it. And there they are all cut out. Like I said, there is a coordinating die set for this set. I don't happen to have it, but there is one, so you don't have to fussy cut if it's not your thing. So now I'm going to stamp the mini scene for this card. This time I have a little bit bigger circle, closer to 3 inches on this card. I also stamped that sun and clouds, and I colored this out the same exact way. However, I am going to fill in the sky a little bit more with that B000 marker, and I add a little bit of the T1 for just darkening that up, a little bit of a gray shadow around the things. And I did color my clouds a little bit more gray. And I am doing that because I want to create a rainy day scene. So I took this single raindrop stamp image from my critter set and laid my cat in place where it's going to go so I could figure out where exactly I wanted to stamp out my raindrops. And I'm using that same Aqualicious ink that I used for my ink blended background to stamp out these raindrops. And they are the perfect size, the perfect thing, and I love how it turned out. Next, I'm adding the shadow piece behind that and popping that up on the center of my ink blended card, and popping the kitty up and adding the sentiment. It's going to just touch the edge of my circle, so that end piece is going to get some glue where the rest of it had foam squares. I'm mounting this onto my slimline card, which is 6 inches by 6 inches, scored at 3 inches. That's my favorite size to make a mini slimline card. Next, I'm stamping this little mini rainbow set. Now, when I'm coloring this in, I'm really trying to just do 1 layer of coloring so I don't have a lot of ink blending bleeding out on the back of my card. And then I just hand drew in some little clouds at the end. They're okay. I don't hate those clouds that I drew. I could love them more, but I don't hate them. So there's my mini slimline card. I just love how that one turned out. For card number 3, I'm going to make a square card that is 4 by 4, and I'm using this plaid background stamp. I love plaid. Love it. So I thought I would make a rainbow plaid background. I'm leaving this right on the window sheet that it comes on, and I inked up the top portion with that coral berry. I'm going to ink up the bottom with my Aqualicious ink. I'm just going to cover up those other stamps. I don't want to accidentally ink them up. And then I'm leaving the middle open, and I'm going to bring in this small brayer. It's about a 2-inch brayer. And I'm going to use that to add the yellow ink to the center. And it's going to overlap the blue and the pink. And what I'm really hoping is that it's going to give me a rainbow, that it's going to create that green and orange for me. So I'm going to stamp this down onto a, oh, you hear that? That sound? That's me huffing on the stamp. I'm re-moistening that ink with my warm breath so that when I stamp it down, it hasn't dried out too much. It re-moistens it. It's a little tip I've known for a long time. Huffing on your stamps, it's legal. Yeah, in the States anyway. Sorry, I'm sorry. That was not funny. Okay, so it did make a rainbow, and I am ink splattering it, or splattering it with some sparkle. And then for my scene, I'm just making a sky image. So I just stamped that cloud and sun image, but in this case, it's going to be a moon. And then for my critter, I have this cute little baby bear sleeping on a cloud. And then it says, welcome little one. So I'm going to color out the cloud just by outlining it with that T1 marker. And then for my bear, I'm going to use the E34 marker, the same like brown marker I use like for the mountains and that dog. And then I'm going to color that or blend it in with the E53 marker. So it's going to be a really light brown marker. Marker, bear, a light brown bear. Sometimes words are hard. Yeah, and sometimes I listen to my videos after I've made them and I have those mistakes I never caught. And I say weird things, but I caught it this time. So there he is, all colored up, and he's so precious sleeping on that cloud. I'm also going to fussy cut or bubble cut out my sentiment, and I just like the look of this. I think it's really just cute, a cute way to cut it out. And then for my moon, I colored it with Y04, and then with my Y06 marker, I'm making darker spots on my moon. These are the craters. And then I'm going to outline one side of those with my T1 marker, just really lightly, and hopefully that gives it the feel of a moon. I'm coming back in with my fine liner pen and drawing a cloud shape across the bottom, and then I'm stamping on this little cluster of stars, also from that critter set, to finish off my scene. I'm adding some yellow to those stars, and I'm using that T marker to outline the edge of the clouds and moon and the other cloud that I drew. And then I'm just going to go around everything, kind of in a squiggly, swirly motion. I didn't want to color the whole thing all the way in because I still wanted it to look kind of cloud-like, and maybe that look was achieved. I mean, it is in my mind. But I like how it turned out. You can be the judge for yourself, but a lot of this center area I didn't focus on too much because the bear's going to cover that center section up. And then I added my shadow circle and popped that up right in the center of my plaid background, which I was hoping would kind of resemble like a baby blanket. And then I popped up my bear in the center of his little scene and glued down my sentiment, welcome little one, right under that circle. I'm going to glue this down to a 4x8 card that was scored at 8 inches. I think having a little card like to go with a baby gift is always so cute. I love little cards. So I use those same stars to stamp on the inside of the card for a little bit more interest there. And that finishes up card number 3. I really enjoyed making these cards. I love the tiny scenes. I love critters. I love rainbow. Plaid, wood grain, hearts. Like, these cards were just so much fun to make. I thank you so much for stopping by. If you're interested in the supplies I used, I did link them for you below. And if you want more inspiration, there are a couple more videos here for you at the end. And if you're new here, feel free to subscribe and ring the little bell, and YouTube will let you know next time there's a new video. Thanks for watching, and happy stamping. Bye!